DVN,
All right, ready to roll?
we're ready to roll. Bring the
I
heat.
did it again. All right. All right, let me get back to our notes here. Today we're talking about an interesting, let's find my notes on. Did you see the topic, Dean?
Oh, yeah.
All right, control the machine. I got to find my notes here. The good news is the notes are done.
Now we're just waiting for your.
All right. And here we go. All right, so here's something I've been thinking about, guys. There's so much technology available that all it really does is it's designed to pull our attention. It's designed to distract us all the time. In a world where doing our job is already difficult, in a digital world, we have to figure out how to add discipline. So I'm being very purposeful with this, and I outlined some notes here on how we can create some discipline in a world where it's really difficult. So let me give you a couple of notes here and we can talk through this. And if anybody has any specific challenges, we could talk about that too. So the first one is going to be digital discipline equals personal power. So we're going to eliminate distractions and turn off non-essential notifications. If you haven't already on your phone, you need to create a focus mode, especially when you're working and prospecting. You've got to design your phone and your feed to serve your mission, not your moods.
Like that.
All right. And we're going to learn to guard your attention like your bank account. A couple of things that have created this idea for me is one, people don't have the ability to read anymore because they read and then they've got all these other things, bing, 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 and our brains are moving so fast, we can't even read. I was doing some research yesterday trying to figure out how to use ChatGPT basically to read. And you can summarize information really quickly, but you can't learn it. And so I'm going to offer you a couple of different thoughts on this as I go through these notes. So accompanying any of the activities that you're doing using ChatGPT is great to kind of organize your thoughts and even outline basic points. But what I want to really seal for you is in regards to reading is what we're doing is we're reading any material that we're reading to finish it. And we're reading to basically say that we read a certain amount of books. A book is really meant to be read and reread to change the web of thought that's in your brain and to move you in the direction of who you'd like to become. And the only way that you can really accomplish that is if you sit with the material. It should take you a lot longer to read if you're actually reading for the right purpose. So we're going to talk about AI as your assistant, not your authority. So what we use GPT for is to sharpen your thinking, not outsourcing it. So when we pair it with reading, we're going to use it to summarize chapters, create discussion prompts, and then extract the key lessons. So an example would be you could, while you're reading a physical book or Kindle or even listening to it, you could ask ChatGPT to summarize the chapters and pull out the key points. What I would encourage you to do as a prompt inside of ChatGPT next is say, write a series of 5 to 10 questions asking me how I can implement these ideas into my life. Is anybody doing it like that already?
Yes.
No. Yes?
Like that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, good. One of the things I did today was just while we're on this topic, I took my 2024 tax returns, I uploaded it, I asked it to compare my S Corp model versus a hybrid S Corp and C Corp model, and asked it to outline any areas where I can improve my tax savings. I also had a lease agreement on my building, and they sent me a bunch of CAM charges and said that I owed a certain amount of money. I uploaded it and asked it to analyze the charges. And based on my area, are the charges and are the services that are being provided on the building, are they in line? And guess what I found out? They were trying to raise my rent by $1,000 and charge me $5,000 on CAM reconciliation. Once GPT analyzed it and I sent the results back, my rent went up $12 and I owed them $0. So that's pretty wild. The next piece I want to talk about on this is programming your algorithm with purpose. So if you were to go to your Instagram and click the search, you're going to see junk, right? You're going to see jokes and boobies. Most of us, Teddy, are going to see boobies. And if you go to your search page, you will see the way you're actually searching, what you're liking, right? It's going to mirror that back to you. So what I've done is I asked ChatGPT to create me a list of affirmations on what material that I'd like to get stronger at. It was pretty wild because I'm focusing on things like tax advantages, health, wellness, business acumen, masculinity. These are the things that I have in my algorithm, right? So I take all those from ChatGPT, I go to Instagram and I start searching that, and then I pull up those results and I like and comment and like and comment, and I'm refilling my feed that I would actually that I like to actually have more of, right? So write 10 custom affirmations tied to your goals and your beliefs. You can use ChatGPT to speak them out loud, record them. You can create posts based on this material as well, but I'm also asking you, especially on YouTube and Instagram, where you've got this algorithm where you can go back and refeed it and use that content to back your values. And now what you're seeing and what you're mirroring back to yourself. I had a moment after the election where I realized that my feed was just full of junk. It was just full of people arguing about stupid things all day and every day. And then I realized a couple months after the election, by the way, that it doesn't stop after the election. Now it actually even speeds up if you allow it. The other thing is you've got your mindset associated with what's going on in the world right now. I have a few coaching clients that I'm working with directly that are really struggling with the idea that why even bother? Why bother prospecting? Why bother making money? Why bother doing a deal when there's so much negativity and there's so much uncertainty? But here's something that I'm going to offer on this, that all this negativity is always abundant. There just becomes certain times like COVID or the election, or I could name 20 examples where we're all really convinced that it's so valid and it's so valuable that we have to participate and know what's going on with this. So I asked a different group last week. I was presented in Vegas, and I said, we're all concerned about tariffs, right? I mean, we're all worried about that. So let me ask you, by raising your hand, can you tell me which product you import? And of course, what was the answer?
Zero.
Zero.
Donuts.
And I got news for you. The price of eggs and the price of every single thing is irrelevant to me if I do my job properly. Now, that's likely to offend somebody, or somebody's going to say, well, you're not paying attention to what's going on. You have a duty. You do not have a duty to be involved in negativity, especially around things that you cannot control. No matter what side of any argument you're on, there's always a group of people out there that would love to engage with you in that argument. And if you get caught up in that in any way, even if you're just watching it, when you're watching it, you can't avoid negatively being affected by watching a car crash, can you? And that's what we're doing all day, every day, is going to our feeds and effectively watching car crashes all day long, and then getting in our car and wondering, could I be next? And guess what? Any one of us could be next, but it has nothing to do with what you're trying to accomplish. So I'm going to ask you to think about the learned language models that are out there, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, I could go on, and Grok. I'm using all of these to build, and I'm not changing the way they think because they're unemotional. But I am telling them I'm telling ChatGPT what my goals are, what I'm trying to accomplish. And today, when I go to DBN coaching in ChatGPT and I start working through some of these ideas, I've already told ChatGPT how I would like to structure my day, how I'd like to structure my thinking. So your weekly workflow with ChatGPT should be, let's start my week with, here's my goal, build a plan. Now, I've outsourced a ton of my coaching conversations inside the company and a lot of the conversations that I'm having directly with coaching clients, because it doesn't replace the fact that there's a gap. There's a gap between who you are in your present thinking versus where you're trying to go. And this is the problem. I'm going to link this back to the reading problem. So, Dean, if we read a summary of a book, it's a dopamine hit. And the dopamine hit is, that's kick-ass, that's cool, that's who I'd like to be. But there's no actual change agent that's included in that, because there's no thought process where you stop and think, am I actually implementing that? Could I do something like that? And is that who I am? So with that being said, you could take your goal and build the plan and say, I want to do this for the week. But implementing that to your calendar, tracking it back, seeing if you're actually doing those things in order to get closer and bridge the gap on who you're becoming. So use the GPT to build the schedules, anticipate challenges, and prep for critical conversations. But what it should do is free you up the time to actually analyze if that's what you're doing, and then to think about what would happen to your life if you actually implemented those changes. All right, so most of us are slaves to these devices, and we have no idea that we're slaves to them. You have to figure out ways to become the master. I wrote an article years ago for Selling Magazine, Mike Ferry's old Selling Magazine, and it was about controlling technology back then. And it had some of these similar ideas about controlling your algorithm. What I did at the time was I stopped following all people on Instagram. I only follow brands and ideas. And that's what I implemented on my personal Instagram, so that I could not be paying attention to who's on vacation. I could be looking at things that are inspiring and are exciting. And then I encourage people to use Pinterest as their vision board. And I keep my vision board in Pinterest. And anytime I want to engage in creating that, I go to Pinterest and it will recommend things based on the previous search, right? And you can add that to any platform. And if you find yourself getting lost you guys are getting lost in the platforms, right? I mean, everybody's got some desired platform that if they get a minute, if you go to the bathroom, you're like, I'm not going without my phone because I'm going there. And you got to look at it and see how much that's affecting your day. So any ideas that anybody would like to share on how you are different and how you become the master? Any thoughts on what we've talked about so far?
Well, I love the concept of just changing the whole algorithm in all the platforms by putting in those. You said have ChatGPT create 10 affirmations based on your goals and essentially, and then dropping those. What are you doing from there? Once it does that, you're dropping. So
there's two different ideas here that we can. Let me outline the two ways that I currently use it. I don't think I spoke to this. So first, what I said was, create the list of affirmations. It could be 10, 20. And what you're doing is pasting those back to your platforms to control the feed. So what I'm taking is, let's say, tax strategy or something specific, masculinity or business acumen or something like that. And I'm taking that Instagram, I plug that word in, that affirmation in, it creates results right in the search. Now you can go to accounts and it's going to show you all those accounts, or it'll just show you results. Click the results that are around that idea and then like that. Create more results and like it. Now all the algorithm does is notice what you're paying attention to. And you should be very aware of this. So if you go pull up Instagram as a perfect example, or YouTube, and go to shorts and you do this, right? When you do that, are you seeing that there's, narcissistic behavior is this, and if I've met my true love, then blah, blah, blah. You see all that, right? You see whatever Instagram is feeding you is what you're looking for, and it's just mirroring it back to you. And you can control your experience. This connects, by the way, to exactly what we're talking about in terms of politics and everything else that's negative. We have this mindset around what's going on in the world, and our mind is how we interact with the world. And we're constantly feeding our mind these types of things because we're interested in it, but also because it's the dopamine hit. Gamblers go to the casino and they go like this all day long, right? Do you think they're addicted to winning? They're not addicted to winning. The dopamine hit that they get is losing, and the negativity and the things that actually create an emotional response in us. So if you think about what your problems are right now, if you were to just take a second and say, what are my current problems in my business, finance, relationship, and what do you think they are? Guess what? You're going to go to Instagram or YouTube, you're going to start scrolling, and you're going to see a mirror of all those challenges. And so those are the affirmations. Because if you go through and scroll and see something on narcissism as an example, because it's like that's in a lot of people's feeds, or dealing with difficult relationships, all of a sudden, now what you're doing is projecting more of that into your universe, and then you see it more in your relationship. The opposite of that would be to take and create some affirmations around the relationship you're looking for with yourself and other people. And then when you see something that says, a good man does this, a good woman does this, or that's just a specific example in relationships, right? Now, all of a sudden, it's just like an affirmation because you're projecting and mirroring that to the world. That now when you see that, the way that you feel about relationships is different, right? So that's the first way. The second way that I use it is in the mobile app of ChatGPT. What I will do is I will say, based on the books that I've suggested that I'm interested in, and I have a list of them in ChatGPT, write me a list of 100 affirmations on who I'd like to become, Bobby. It's going to spit out 100 of them, right? Now, here's the key. Select the text, go down to the right and hit voice. Now it's going to start to read those affirmations to you. So when I'm driving, I'll listen to ChatGPT mirror to me 100 affirmations based on who I'm trying to become. So 2 different ideas on how you could use it there.
Love it.
So the coaching question that I would ask for you is, what platforms am I using? How much am I consuming, and what am I consuming on those platforms? What is the tool or the temptation that the platform is using for me? And then how can I reprogram myself and the platform? Right? Your guiding question is, what mission am I serving today? Mine or someone else's? And we can even tie this back to time management. if you look at time management and you're asking yourself, what is controlling me? Because we're more and more unaware of this every day. What is controlling me? Things are dinging, things are going off, things are distracting us. All of these machines are designed in a way where you can decide what dings. You can decide what comes in. What you've done is purposely decided that notifications will run your day. You've also justified it based on the idea that you need to know when some of those things are happening, or I got this email and it's a good thing that I can reply to it right now. And text, I mean, how many of you are receiving text messages as notifications? Because that's like the number one thing that you should not be doing when you're prospecting or doing anything purposeful, by the way. So do you have, so let's start with the reverse. Instead of trying to turn everything off and going dark, what I'm going to invite you to do is create focus time. Think about this and actually consider, how much time do you actually spend away from technology where you're focusing on material? Like actual material that you're trying to improve yourself on. And how much time are you spending thinking about what your actual result is in that area? I'm rereading. Here's the note that I came across that I thought was really important on this. We don't really even need a list of 20 new books to read. You have a list of 10 books that have been influential in your life. You didn't even read them the first time. You went through them quickly so you could tell someone that you read the book, and you pulled out basically the notes that you could have gotten from ChatGPT. So I took this idea, I did it yesterday. I took this idea and I went back to the book, The Big Leap, which I think is just incredibly smart. And instead of reading it to try to get through the 10 pages as quickly as I could, I went through each line, read it, and thought about it. Like, is that meaningful? Is it powerful? Is it useful? Am I doing it? Did I pick it up the first time I read this book? And by the way, if you do this to any book that's been influential in your life, you're going to find there's 6 other books inside of the book that you claim you read. A lot of times when I work with coaching clients that are, they don't even realize that they're on this level of distracted. We work on meditation first. And we try to get to the point where you're at least still for 15 or 20 minutes a day, thinking about whatever's in the center, right? Because all the answers are there. You don't really even need to go anywhere else to get the answer. They're all right there. You know exactly what to do. But if you were to take, as an example, I have a client this week that was working on acceptance, is the word that we were meditating around. And if you were to take that word, this is a little deeper, but you take that word, and we can all do it, and look at the things that you're resisting in your life. If you're not making enough money, if you're not finding the relationship you want, if you're finding yourself getting aggravated about anything, an emotional response, if you recognize that at one point in the day, I'm getting an emotional response here, go back and meditate on that for 15, 20 minutes and ask yourself, what am I not accepting? What have I not accepted around this topic from my past? What have I not accepted presently? What have I not accepted as a limitation of myself? Did I catch you, Gene? Dean, did I get you finally?
I'm on the wall.
Is there a ledge back there?
I'm gonna break through this fucking wall. Nice.
Yeah, so I like that. I can go through some material and you're like, yeah.
Can you jump back on that point you were making about what have I not accepted of my you were kind of digging on that point.
All right, so let me give you a specific example on this that I've worked on personally, just to add a little bit of anecdote and vulnerability to it, okay? So I have difficult parents in every way, and they've always been that way. And so I project a lot of that into the world, right? Projected it to relationships, projected it on agents, projected it in my business, and I push relationships away. I push deals away. I push people that want to get along with me away. And in this relationship with my parents, I looked at it and I thought, what have I not accepted? Why, like, can I accept them for who they are? Can I accept the reality of who I am based on the way they treated me? I haven't accepted it because I'm still projecting it. Like when people are dealing with me, it's almost like I need to preface it with like, my mom didn't really care about me all that much. So just so you know, that's what you're going to see here in this conversation. But they don't have those type of notes on you, right? So they're just like, why is he getting all defensive? Or like, it's why when I asked him a basic question, is he acting like this? So there's a couple levels of acceptance there, right? I haven't accepted that that's the way I'm interacting with the world. Secondly, I haven't accepted that that's just the reality of who they were and who I am. And the next level of acceptance that I spoke to is if I can accept that it is exactly what it is, now I can actually start to improve it. So if you look at, if we all have difficult people as an example, most people can relate to that. Can you just accept it? That's what it is. I cannot change that. It's no different than the politics on my X feed. I don't have control over that. So why do I have to carry it around and project it, mirror it, and look for information on it and fight with it? So the acceptance, like Tony Robbins has the priming exercise, right? I like the way he says, feel your heartbeat. As long as it beats, you live. Something to that effect. There's something very centering around the idea that this is just the human experience and we're all really failing at it. Now I'm connecting some wild shit, but you're creating this cycle all the time. Then you show up to a business situation, or you show up to a coaching call, or you show up to a prospect. You're projecting all of these things, right? So what I'm dealing with in anybody's mindset every single day is, why do you not want the best for yourself? Why are you fighting me more than anybody else? Your clients aren't fighting you. Your agents aren't fighting you. I'm not fighting you. Why are you fighting you? Right? That's the level of acceptance that we're all looking for. That's the root of all the coaching that we do, is to try to figure out how you can be more of who you are, how you can be more aligned with who you're trying to become, and accept the reality of exactly where you are. Now, the difficulty is we have to play games with that, right? We have to play games with it. Oh, it's about contacts. It's about this. It's about that. But the truth is, if I could just instill that in someone and say, look, you're good at what you do. You know the process to do it. If you do the work, you'll get the result. All you have to do is believe in yourself. Well, then you wouldn't need a coach. You wouldn't need anything. You would just be able to convey your message to the people that were meant for you. The ones that do not want to work with you, Bobby, you can accept that, as opposed to projecting that on all your other results. Well, this didn't work here, so now I got to change everything. Overanalyze it. Well, it didn't work last week, so I can't do it this week, right? Your level of acceptance is so low that, of course, you're having the same problem every single week, every single month for 10 years. You haven't dealt with the root of exactly what you're trying to accomplish. You've accepted nothing.
You haven't accepted yourself.
We're working on that, Bobby.
Somehow it always.
Oh, yes, we are. It's huge. It's huge, and it's so damn true. It's like trying to, like you said, just just believe in yourself. When those key ingredients weren't instilled into you from your childhood, that's where it becomes difficult to navigate through in life, and trying to figure out what that even means. Because that's the thing too. I think when you don't even have a relationship with confidence, belief, security, all those values, and then all the mistakes you make subsequently too, once you head out into the world on your own from that, right? And then try to pick it up from there. And the hope is that you.
So let's tie it back.
Some of that Darwinian, yeah.
let's tie it back exactly what we're talking about. So anybody, so trauma as an example, it's a good buzzword. Trauma is things that happen to you that were negative. It's also things that did not happen that should have.
Mhm.
Now, so let's tie this back. If you look into your feed and you see trauma and you're like, that's me, I'm working on my trauma. No, you're not. You're reliving it. So what's the opposite of trauma? Is healing. And healing is not linear. You can heal a 9-year-old boy inside of Bobby today. It's not linear. It happens whenever it happens. So when you're searching for evidence in the world to try to make sense of yourself, don't search for trauma, search for healing. Don't search for chaos, search for acceptance. So look at, and we've tied it back to the digital world today because that's where we all live. But all we're really doing is saying what you focus on grows. And are you focused on healing? Are you focused on improving? Are you focused on accepting? Or are you focused on reliving the chaos that you were born in?
EVM.
Hopefully I just messed some people up with that.
I'm one.
I think you
So-
did. It's all good stuff.
Oh.
FOMO. How do you handle FOMO in your life? Fear of missing out in not just like these different things, but people want to watch the news because they're going to miss out on something important, or they want to chase the shiny penny in our industry to go do something else. How do you integrate all of this conversation with one thought that keeps on recurring as you've been talking for the last 20 minutes with what I'm hearing is handling FOMO in your life?
So there's a couple different areas of FOMO there. One is attached to the ego in terms of trying to impress people that don't care about you. So we're all dealing with that. That's why we're attracted to this industry, because we could get a lot of praise. Our ego is looking for credit for work that we haven't accomplished yet. And so that's easy to recognize. All right. So it's awareness around this piece, right? So we'll do the opposite trick just like that again. So number one, you're scrolling through your feed and you see, oh, this person is posting all these houses that they sold and all this whatever. And you feel this sense of like, they're doing more than I am. And now you're participating in like the number one rule against personal growth, which is comparison, right? We're always comparing someone else's front of the house to our behind the scenes. That is the root of social media, by the way. You're comparing what they're projecting to what you are actually living. But the reality is, the acceptance is everybody's just living a life. And behind that life is all kinds of challenges. So once you can begin to accept that, you realize maybe it's not about actually, this is hard because we're driven by the ego. And especially in this conversation, I could take an agent and throttle them based on these goals and these ideas, and you want to win and you want to sell the most, want to post your picture on Facebook. That's the source of fuel. But inside of you is actually a more important source of fuel. You have to figure out what that is. People inside of coaching say, what's your why? And if you struggle with that question, it's because you're not connected with what your real why is. And I don't think it's a really valid question because nobody's ever realistic about that. Well, my why is I'm just trying to prove to everybody that I'm good enough because my mom didn't think so. Well, okay, that is your why. And if you can get clear on that, you can still use it. It works, but you're not clear on it. What you think your why is something that looks good on a book cover or something like that. And that's not really your why. And you're using it wrongly for fuel. The other piece of FOMO is just trying to, I guess, be where everybody else is or do what they're doing. So it still violates the law of comparison. Once I started to realize, and it helped me when I got siloed away from other agents, started my own company. I should have figured out before then, but I didn't. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And when I post a win, nobody cares. When I post a success story, they just really don't care. And you notice it too, because you see them post a win and then you start to immediately break down why they didn't really achieve it. Well, they have 85 people on their team and they probably didn't make any profit. They just, they're all, right? And so you can recognize it. That's how you recognize it in yourself. The root of the FOMO is that comparison. And the idea of breaking away from that, connected back to how we did it before earlier, is comparison is one piece. And looking in my feed for other people that are winning, by the way, that's a dopamine hit to convince me that I'm not enough. And you're finding plenty of evidence of that all the time. Versus, let's look at all my wins and my successes, or let's look at the things that actually make me happy. And I'm hesitant to use the word happy because I don't believe in happy. I believe in purposeful. Right. But so dig down into the root of the FOMO. That's something to sit with, by the way. And you push that. We talked about journaling last week. You push that to the following day's meditation. And you go, okay, why did it bother me that someone posted this award that they did? Somebody would post an award or something like that on Facebook, and I would go comment, "You've sold 5 houses your whole life." I actually did that to someone in my marketplace.
Oh, sick.
I remember that.
Vindictive Dave. Does the V stand for vindictive in the middle?
Yeah, V for vendetta.
V for vendetta.
Yeah, and like, it's funny. In my world, like sometimes funny's funny, and that just doesn't even matter where it's rooted from, right? But ultimately, why do I care if this guy's posting something and doesn't have the authority to do it? The universe will take care of him. Why is that my job? Why is it my job to convince everybody with the way they should think on certain political ideas? Why is it my job? It's not your job. And you should know it's not your job because you're failing at it and you're not changing hearts and minds. And also, by the way, you're not doing your job because you have a couple of really important jobs, the work and the life and the health and all the goals that you have. I guess that's probably the root of today's conversation is what I'm thinking of, is we're really not connected with what we're trying to do. But we're really not connected with what it would take to actually accomplish that. So I was going to say, instead of changing your whole life around that, be purposeful with it for 20 minutes in the morning in terms of thought, and for 1 hour a day to start in terms of your focus. Sit with the material. Take 4 or 5 lines from the book that changed your life and sit with those and work on how you're actually going to implement those. None of us are lacking ideas. I can come to a call. By the way, this call is a good example. I can come to this call every week and blow your mind with 20 points. Of, ooh, oh, that's ooh. But the actual change that could even possibly happen, and I encourage this, we hang up and you take one thing and you sit with it and say, yeah, but it was just a bunch of ideas and it was fun conversation. There was a bunch of dopamine hits and there was a couple zingers. What am I actually going to do with any of this? And make that little change.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to heal my why.
Break her down. Like a bad sweater, Bobby.
You guys have any other questions? Anyone else?
Yeah. Lena, what do you think about all that? Lena's like, what the hell did I get into today? Go ahead.
I think it's amazing. And to be honest with you, I already do a lot of it. So just like using GPT, I think is really, really important to me. Like when I'm reading, I always do, each chapter after I read it. So I definitely do that. And, I start my mornings with a power message. And basically, it's just GPT creates a power message for me each morning. It has 10 affirmations. It has like a really themed message for me in the morning, something that's intentional for me to start my day. And I will have 10 affirmations and 10 gratitudes. And that's kind of like how I really start my days, by reading it and just really setting the intention for the day. So, but no,
That's a really great idea.
This is all amazing. And especially what I really loved today is how you kind of told us if you're searching for trauma, that's exactly what you're attracting. And I think that was really huge. Just really change you know, I guess you don't want to focus on trauma, you want to focus on healing. Like, and I think that's major. We're so hung up on fixing things that we're sometimes like, that's not what we're looking for. Like, this is not what we truly need. We need the, you know, that's not our goal, is what we're searching. And we're attracting the the opposite just because we're not searching for the right thing. So that was huge. Thank you.
Yeah. So to apply that back, by the way, in your prospecting, you find exactly what you're looking for. So if you come out of your prospecting thinking numbers are bad, dialers not working, sources are bad, contacts are low, you think that you're acting as a business person by analyzing inefficiencies, but actually what you're doing is creating the experience that you're likely to recreate. So what do we say about that, Rich? When you produce
In the direction of your energy.
you produce in the direction of your energy. Right. And if your energy is, this is not working, I need to fix, I'm going to bring this to my coaching call. All this stuff isn't working. I know that I found someone in flow when they show up to a coaching call saying, let me tell you about all the stuff that's going well. Let me tell you what I'm really hammering on this, because that's when you hit momentum, by the way, and everywhere you look is a deal. All right. We probably got to go.
EVN, once again, thank you.
Thanks for the time, y'all.
vulnerability.
Thank you.
All right, guys. See
Bye.
ya.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks.
Love.
Later.